A desperate plea. In the depths of a moonless night, a streak of light tore across the sky above the rugged mountains of Montana. To the untrained eye, it might have appeared to be a meteor or a falling star, but for Ethan Hawkins, the brilliant arc held a far more profound meaning. Ethan stood on the porch of his remote cabin, his keen eyes tracking the object as it descended toward the earth. As a former Special Forces soldier, he knew the difference between a natural phenomenon and something extraordinary. And this, he was certain, was the latter. With a resolute sigh, Ethan grabbed his jacket and a flashlight, then set out into the darkness. He moved with purpose, his boots crunching against the rough terrain as he followed the fading glow of the fallen object. After an hour of hiking, Ethan found himself standing at the edge of a small crater. In the center, a twisted mass of metal and unfamiliar technology smoldered, casting an eerie blue light across the scorched earth. Ethan approached cautiously, his senses on high alert. As he drew closer, a sound stopped him in his tracks, a faint cry, almost like that of a human infant. Ethan's heart raced as he hurried to the wreckage, using his flashlight to scan the debris. There, amidst the ruins of what he now realized was some kind of spacecraft, he saw her. She was clearly not human, with luminescent silver skin and eyes that glowed like molten gold. But the way she cradled the bundle in her arms was achingly familiar, a mother protecting her child. When she looked up at Ethan, her expression was a mix of fear, desperation, and something else, hope. "Please," she whispered in a language that Ethan couldn't understand, yet somehow the meaning was clear. "Help us." Ethan hesitated for only a moment before reaching out to her. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm not going to hurt you." The alien woman studied him intently, as if searching for any sign of deceit. Finally, she nodded and allowed Ethan to help her to her feet. The baby in her arms stirred and let out another cry, and the mother gently soothed her. "Come with me," Ethan said, gesturing toward the path that led back to his cabin. "You'll be safe there." As they walked through the night, Ethan's mind raced with questions. Who was this alien woman, and what had brought her to Earth? What was she running from? And why, of all the places she could have landed, had she ended up here, in the remote wilderness that he called home? When they reached the cabin, Ethan ushered the mother and child inside. In the warm light of the living room, he got his first clear look at them. The mother was tall and lithe, her features both strikingly alien and hauntingly beautiful. The baby girl in her arms had the same luminous skin and golden eyes, but there was something else, a hint of human features that made Ethan's heart skip a beat. "My name is Ethan," he said, speaking slowly and clearly. "Ethan Hawkins. What's yours?" The mother hesitated for a moment before answering. "Xyloth," she said, her voice musical and ethereal. "I am Xyloth of Zephyria. And this," she looked down at her daughter with a mixture of love and sorrow, "is Lyra." Ethan nodded, trying to process the information. "Zephyria? Is that your planet?" Xyloth's eyes filled with tears, and she clutched Lyra closer to her chest. "It was," she whispered. "But we can never go back. They would kill us both." A chill ran down Ethan's spine. He had seen his share of cruelty and injustice in his years as a soldier, but the idea of a mother and child being hunted by their own people was beyond comprehension. "Why?" he asked gently. "Why would they want to hurt you?" Xyloth looked away, her shoulders trembling. "Because of what I did. Because of who Lyra's father was." She took a shuddering breath before continuing. "He was human, Ethan. A scientist who came to Zephyria to study our technology. We fell in love, but it was forbidden." Ethan's eyes widened as he realized the implications of her words. Lyra was a hybrid, half human and half Zephyrian. No wonder they were being hunted. "I'm so sorry," he said, reaching out to place a comforting hand on Xyloth's shoulder. "I can't imagine what you've been through. But you're safe now." I promise, I won't let anyone hurt you or Lyra. Xyloth met his gaze, and for the first time, Ethan saw a glimmer of hope in those golden eyes. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for giving us a chance. As Ethan set about making a bed for Xyloth and Lyra on the couch, his mind was already racing ahead, thinking about the challenges that lay before them. He knew that helping these two refugees would mean confronting not only the prejudices of Xyloth's people but also the fears and doubts of his own. But as he watched Xyloth gently lay Lyra down on the soft blankets, singing a haunting lullaby in her alien tongue, Ethan knew that he had made the right choice. Whatever came next, he would face it with the same courage and determination that had carried him through his darkest days as a soldier. For in Xyloth and Lyra, he saw not just a chance to protect the innocent, but also an opportunity to build a bridge between two worlds, to prove that compassion and understanding could triumph over fear and hatred. And so, as the first rays of dawn began to peek through the cabin windows, Ethan Hawkins made a silent vow. He would stand by Xyloth and Lyra's side, no matter what challenges lay ahead. For in their struggle, he saw a reflection of the best of humanity, the unwavering spirit that had carried their species to the stars and beyond. With a smile, Ethan settled into his armchair, keeping watch over the sleeping mother and child. Their journey was just beginning, but he knew that together, they would find a way to build a brighter future, for Xyloth, for Lyra, and for the two worlds that they now called home. Worlds collide. As the days turned into weeks, Ethan and Xyloth settled into a tentative routine at the cabin. While Xyloth cared for Lyra, Ethan took on the role of provider and protector, venturing into the nearby town for supplies and keeping a watchful eye out for any signs of trouble. In the quiet moments between the daily tasks, Ethan and Xyloth began to share stories of their past lives. Ethan spoke of his time in the military, the battles he had fought, and the losses he had endured. In turn, Xyloth shared tales of her world, Zephyria, a planet of towering crystalline cities, advanced technology, and a society that prized knowledge above all else. But for all our wisdom, Xyloth said one evening as they sat by the fireside, we still couldn't see beyond our own prejudices. When my love for Lyra's father was discovered, I was cast out, branded a traitor to my people. Ethan listened intently, his heart aching for the pain that Xyloth had endured. What about Lyra's father? He asked gently. What happened to him? Xyloth's eyes filled with tears, and she looked away. He didn't make it. When the authorities came for us, he stayed behind to give us a chance to escape. I don't know if he's alive or... Her voice trailed off, and she hugged Lyra closer to her chest. Ethan reached out and placed a comforting hand on Xyloth's shoulder. I'm so sorry, he said. But I promise you, Xyloth, I won't let anything happen to you or Lyra. You're safe here. Xyloth managed a grateful smile, and in that moment, Ethan felt a connection that went beyond mere friendship. It was a bond forged in shared pain and a mutual understanding of what it meant to lose everything. As the weeks passed, Xyloth began to share her knowledge of Zephyrian technology with Ethan. She showed him the remnants of her ship, explaining the advanced propulsion systems and energy sources that powered it. Ethan was fascinated by the potential applications of such technology, from clean energy to medical breakthroughs. Imagine what we could achieve if we combined the best of our two worlds, he said one day as they tinkered with a piece of salvaged equipment. Your advanced knowledge and our human ingenuity, we could change the course of history. Xyloth smiled, her golden eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. I believe you're right, Ethan. But we must be cautious. Not everyone on your world would see the benefits of such a partnership. Ethan knew she was right. He had seen firsthand the fear and mistrust that could arise when faced with the unknown. But he also knew that the potential rewards were too great to ignore. As Lyra grew and began to take her first tentative steps, Ethan and Xyloth's bond deepened. They spent long hours talking about their hopes and dreams for the future, and Ethan found himself drawn to Xylotha's gentle wisdom and fierce determination. One night, as they sat together under the stars, Xyloth turned to Ethan with a serious expression. "Ethan," she said softly, "there's something I need to tell you. Something about my people, and the abilities we possess." Ethan leaned in closer, his curiosity piqued. "What is it?" Xyloth took a deep breath before continuing. "Zephyrians. We have certain gifts. Mental abilities that allow us to communicate telepathically, to manipulate energy fields, and even to influence the thoughts of others." Ethan's eyes widened in surprise. "You mean, like psychic powers?" Xyloth nodded. "In a way, yes. But it's more than that. These abilities are woven into the very fabric of our being. They are a part of who we are." Ethan sat back, his mind reeling with the implications of Xylotha's revelation. On the one hand, the idea of such advanced mental powers was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. But on the other hand, he knew Xyloth, he trusted her. And if she was sharing this information with him, it could only mean one thing. "You're telling me this because you think it could help us, aren't you?" he asked. Xyloth nodded, her expression grave. "There are those among my people who would use these abilities for their own gain. The hunter-seekers who were sent to capture us, they are trained in the art of mental warfare. If they find us—" She didn't need to finish the sentence. Ethan understood the severity of the threat they faced. But he also saw an opportunity, a chance to even the odds in their favor. "Then we'll just have to be smarter," he said, his voice filled with determination. "We'll use every tool at our disposal, human and Zephyrian alike. And we'll show them that the bond between a mother and her child is stronger than any weapon they could wield." Xyloth smiled, her eyes shining with gratitude and something else, something that Ethan couldn't quite name. But as they sat there under the stars, their hands intertwined and their hearts beating as one, he knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. For in the union of their two worlds, the fusion of human courage and alien wisdom, lay the key to a future brighter than either of them could have imagined. A future where love and understanding triumphed over fear and hatred. And so, as the night wore on and the stars wheeled overhead, Ethan and Xyloth began to plan their next move. They knew that the road ahead would be fraught with danger and uncertainty. But they also knew that they had something worth fighting for, a chance to build a new life together, and to show the universe that the bonds of family and friendship knew no boundaries. With Lyra sleeping peacefully in her mother's arms, Ethan and Xyloth set to work, two souls from different worlds, united by a shared purpose and an unbreakable bond. And though the future was uncertain, one thing was clear: together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, and emerge stronger than ever before. The hunt begins. As the sun rose over the mountains, casting a golden glow across the tranquil landscape, Ethan and Xyloth were already hard at work. They had spent the night planning and preparing, gathering supplies and reinforcing the cabin's defenses. Now, as the first rays of dawn crept through the windows, they stood together in the kitchen, their faces set with determination. "They'll be coming for us," Xyloth said, her voice low and steady. "The hunter-seekers won't rest until they've found us." Ethan nodded, his jaw clenched. "Then we'll be ready for them." He had spent the past few hours studying the schematics of Xylotha's ship, trying to understand the advanced technology that powered it. With Xylotha's guidance, he had managed to salvage a few key components: energy shields, cloaking devices, and a long-range communication array. "If we can get these up and running," he said, gesturing to the pile of salvaged equipment, "we might be able to buy ourselves some time. Maybe even call for help." Xylotha's eyes widened. "Call for help? From whom?" Ethan hesitated, weighing his words carefully. "From my people. The government, the military, someone who can stand up to the hunter-seekers." Xyloth shook her head, her expression torn between hope and fear. "Ethan, I appreciate what you're trying to do. But we don't know how your people will react. What if they see me as a threat? What if they try to take Lyra away? Ethan reached out and took Xyloth's hand, his eyes locked on hers. I won't let that happen. I promise you, Xyloth, I will do everything in my power to keep you and Lyra safe. No matter what. Xyloth searched his face for a long moment, her golden eyes shimmering with emotion. Finally, she nodded. All right. Let's do it. They set to work, Ethan tinkering with the salvaged equipment while Xyloth kept watch over Lyra. The hours ticked by, the sun climbing higher in the sky. And then, just as Ethan was about to connect the final wire, a shrill alarm pierced the air. They're here, Xyloth whispered, her face draining of color. Ethan sprang into action, grabbing his rifle and rushing to the window. In the distance, he could see a sleek, silver craft descending from the sky, a Zephyrian ship, bristling with weapons. Xyloth, take Lyra and hide, he said, his voice calm and controlled. I'll hold them off. But Xyloth shook her head, her eyes blazing with determination. No. I won't leave you to face them alone. She closed her eyes, and Ethan felt a sudden surge of energy ripple through the air. The hair on the back of his neck stood on end, and he gasped as he saw tendrils of golden light emanating from Xyloth's body. What are you doing? He whispered, awestruck. Xyloth opened her eyes, and Ethan saw that they were glowing with an otherworldly light. I'm using my abilities, she said, her voice resonating with power. I'm creating a shield around the cabin, a barrier that will keep the hunter-seekers at bay. Ethan watched in amazement as the golden light expanded, forming a shimmering dome around the cabin. Outside, he could see the hunter-seekers' ship hovering in midair, its weapons trained on the barrier. For a long, tense moment, nothing happened. And then, with a blinding flash of light, the ship opened fire. Ethan braced himself for the impact, but to his surprise, the energy blasts simply dissipated against the golden shield. Xyloth's face was a mask of concentration, her body trembling with the effort of maintaining the barrier. I can't hold them off forever, she said through gritted teeth. We need a plan. Ethan's mind raced, trying to think of a way out of their predicament. And then, like a bolt of lightning, an idea struck him. The communication array, he said, his eyes widening. If we can get a message out, a distress call, maybe we can summon help. Xyloth nodded, her face strained with the effort of maintaining the shield. Do it, she said. Quickly. Ethan rushed to the salvaged equipment, his hands flying over the controls. He tuned the array to the emergency frequency used by the military, praying that someone, anyone, would hear their call. This is Ethan Hawkins, he said, his voice steady and clear. I am requesting immediate assistance. We are under attack by hostile alien forces. Repeat, we are under attack and require immediate assistance. He sent the message out into the ether, his heart pounding in his chest. And then, just as he was about to give up hope, a crackling voice came over the array. This is General Thaddeus Monroe of the United States Air Force. We have received your distress call and are en route to your location. ETA, 15 minutes. Hold tight, Mr. Hawkins. Help is on the way. Ethan let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. He turned to Xyloth, a grin spreading across his face. They're coming, he said. The cavalry's on its way. Xyloth managed a weak smile, her face pale and drawn. Good, she whispered. Because I don't know how much longer I can hold this shield. Outside, the hunter-seeker's ship continued to rain down fire on the barrier, each blast more powerful than the last. Ethan could see cracks beginning to form in the golden light, and he knew that time was running out. He grabbed his rifle and took up a position by the window, ready to defend Xyloth and Lyra to his last breath. And as the minutes ticked by, each one feeling like an eternity, he prayed that the Air Force would arrive in time. For he knew that if they didn't, if the hunter-seekers breached the shield and stormed the cabin, it would be the end, not just for him, but for the woman and child he had come to love more than life itself. And so, with a fierce determination burning in his heart, Ethan Hawkins stood his ground, a human soldier facing an alien threat, armed with nothing but his wits, his courage, and the unbreakable bond of love that had brought them all together. A daring plan. The minutes ticked by with agonizing slowness as Ethan and Xyloth waited for the arrival of the Air Force. Outside, the hunter-seekers' ship continued to bombard the shield with relentless energy blasts, each one sending a shudder through the cabin's walls. Xyloth's face was ashen, her body trembling with the effort of maintaining the barrier. Ethan could see the toll it was taking on her, and he knew that they couldn't rely on her powers alone to keep them safe. "We need a plan," he said, his mind racing. "Something to even the odds." Xyloth nodded weakly, her eyes flickering with exhaustion. "What do you have in mind?" Ethan hesitated, weighing his options. And then, like a flash of inspiration, an idea took hold. "The ship," he said, his voice low and urgent. "If we can get aboard the hunter-seekers' ship, we might be able to disable their weapons, or even turn them against their own." Xyloth's eyes widened, a spark of hope kindling in their golden depths. "How?" Ethan's mind was already racing ahead, formulating a plan. "We'll use the cloaking device from your ship. If we can get close enough without being detected, we might be able to board their vessel and take them by surprise." Xyloth nodded, her face set with determination. "It's risky. But it might be our only chance." Together, they set to work, Ethan assembling the cloaking device while Xyloth focused on maintaining the shield. It was a delicate balance, one slip, and the barrier would fall, leaving them exposed to the hunter-seekers' fury. But Ethan's hands were steady, his mind focused on the task at hand. And as the minutes ticked by, he could feel a sense of purpose taking hold, a resolve born of desperation and love. At last, the device was ready. Ethan held it up, marveling at the sleek, alien technology. "All right," he said, his voice low and steady. "Here's the plan. I'll cloak myself and make my way to their ship. Once I'm aboard, I'll find a way to disable their weapons." Xyloth's face was a mask of concern, her eyes searching his. "And what about you? How will you get back?" Ethan met her gaze, his own eyes burning with determination. "I'll find a way. But right now, the most important thing is keeping you and Lyra safe." He leaned in close, his forehead touching hers. "I love you, Xyloth. More than I ever thought possible. And I swear to you, I will do whatever it takes to protect our family." Xyloth's eyes shimmered with tears, her hand coming up to caress his cheek. "I love you too, Ethan. With all my heart." They held each other for a long moment, their bodies intertwined, their hearts beating as one. And then, with a final, fierce kiss, Ethan pulled away. He activated the cloaking device, feeling a strange tingling sensation wash over his body. And then, with a deep breath, he stepped out into the fray. The world outside the cabin was chaos, energy blasts raining down from the hunter-seekers' ship like a hail of destruction. But Ethan moved through it all like a ghost, his cloaked form invisible to the naked eye. Step by step, he made his way towards the alien vessel, his heart pounding in his chest. And as he drew closer, he could feel a sense of dread taking hold, a fear born of the unknown. But he pushed it aside, focusing on his mission. On Xyloth and Lyra, waiting for him back in the cabin. On the love that had brought them together, and the bond that would see them through. At last, he reached the ship. Its hull loomed before him, sleek and alien, bristling with weapons. Ethan took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. And then, with a silent prayer to whatever gods might be listening, he stepped forward, a human soldier infiltrating an alien stronghold, armed with nothing but his wits and his courage. The fate of his family, and perhaps the fate of two worlds, hung in the balance. And Ethan Hawkins would stop at nothing to see them safe. Even if it meant sacrificing everything he held dear. Even if it meant facing the unknown, and staring down the very face of fear itself. For in that moment, as he stepped into the belly of the beast, Ethan knew that there was no turning back. The die had been cast. The plan had been set in motion. And one way or another, he would see it through to the end. A new beginning. The interior of the Hunter-Seeker's ship was a labyrinth of sleek corridors and pulsing energy fields, the air thick with the hum of alien technology. Ethan moved through it all like a wraith, his cloaked form blending seamlessly with the shadows. His heart pounded in his chest as he made his way deeper into the vessel, his mind racing with possibilities. He knew that he had only one chance to get this right, one chance to disable the ship's weapons and give Xyloth and Lyra a fighting chance. At last, he reached the control room. It was a vast, circular chamber, dominated by a massive view screen that showed the chaos unfolding outside. Ethan could see the cabin below, the golden shield flickering and wavering under the onslaught of the Hunter-Seeker's attacks. And there, at the center of it all, stood the leader of the Hunter-Seekers himself. He was a tall, imposing figure, his body encased in sleek, black armor, his eyes glowing with a cold, merciless light. Ethan knew that he had only one chance. With a deep breath, he deactivated the cloaking device and stepped forward, his rifle raised. "Stand down," he said, his voice ringing out across the control room. "This ends now." The Hunter-Seeker leader turned slowly, his eyes narrowing as he took in the sight of the human soldier standing before him. "You," he hissed, his voice dripping with contempt. "The one who dares to shelter the abomination and her half-breed child." Ethan's grip tightened on his rifle, his jaw clenching with anger. "Her name is Xyloth. And her child is named Lyra. They are not abominations, they are my family." The Hunter-Seeker laughed, a cruel, mocking sound. "Family? You would claim kinship with their kind? You, a mere human?" Ethan met the alien's gaze, his eyes burning with conviction. "I would. Because I have seen the love and courage in Xyloth's heart. I have held Lyra in my arms and watched her grow. They are a part of me now, just as I am a part of them." He took a step forward, his voice rising with emotion. "And I will not let you harm them. Not now, not ever." The Hunter-Seeker's eyes flashed with anger, his hand moving to the weapon at his side. But Ethan was faster. With a single, fluid motion, he raised his rifle and fired, a burst of searing energy that struck the alien leader square in the chest. The Hunter-Seeker stumbled backwards, his armor smoking and sparking. But he did not fall. With a roar of rage, he lunged forward, his own weapon blazing to life. Ethan dove to the side, rolling and coming up firing. The control room erupted into chaos, energy blasts ricocheting off the walls and consoles. But Ethan was relentless. He poured every ounce of his strength and skill into the fight, his mind focused on a single, overriding goal, to protect his family, no matter the cost. And then, just as it seemed that all hope was lost, a miracle happened. The view screen flickered and changed, the image of the cabin replaced by the face of General Monroe himself. "Stand down, soldier," the general said, his voice calm and commanding. "We have the situation under control." Ethan's heart leapt with hope as he saw the Air Force ships descending from the sky, their weapons locked on the Hunter-Seeker's vessel. The alien ship shuddered and lurched, its own weapons falling silent as it was surrounded. The Hunter-Seeker leader let out a howl of rage, his eyes blazing with hatred. But he knew that he was beaten. With a snarl of disgust, he threw down his weapon and raised his hands in surrender. Ethan felt a wave of relief wash over him, his knees going weak with exhaustion. He had done it. Against all odds, he had saved Xyloth and Lyra. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity, as the Air Force secured the alien ship and took the Hunter-Seekers into custody. Ethan was reunited with Xyloth and Lyra, their embraces fierce and tearful. And then, as the dust began to settle, General Monroe approached them with a proposition. "Mr. Hawkins," he said, his eyes twinkling with a hint of amusement. "It seems that you have a unique set of skills, and a unique perspective on our extraterrestrial guests." He gestured to Xyloth and Lyra, who stood watching with wide, curious eyes. "We could use someone like you in our program. Someone who understands both worlds, and who can help bridge the gap between our species." Ethan glanced at Xyloth, a silent question in his eyes. She smiled, her hand reaching out to take his. "We could do it together," she said softly. "Build a new life, a new future. For ourselves, and for the generations to come." Ethan felt his heart swell with love and pride. He turned back to the general, his voice strong and clear. "We're in." And so, as the sun began to set over the mountains, casting a warm, golden glow across the land, Ethan and Xyloth stood hand in hand, their daughter cradled between them. They had faced the unknown, and emerged stronger for it. They had forged a bond that transcended the boundaries of species and culture. And now, as they looked out over the horizon, they knew that a new chapter was beginning. A chapter of hope and possibility, of love and understanding. A chapter where the best of both worlds could come together, and create something truly extraordinary. And as they took their first steps into that bright, shining future, Ethan and Xyloth knew that they were ready for whatever lay ahead. Because they had each other. And they had Lyra. And in the end, that was all that mattered.